Hello, and welcome to Ninox Learning. My name is Andy Marks. I'm a Ninox trainer and programmer, and in this class we're going to talk about a special kind of object that we can put into our Ninox tables. These are smart fields, email, phone number, and website fields that not only contain data, but allow Ninox to automatically act on that data and literally integrate our Ninox applications with other pieces of technology on our computer. Whether it's our email system, even the ability to dial a phone automatically, or integrate directly with our web browser and take us to a website. These smart fields extend the reach and the power of the Ninox system and the applications and solutions that we use it to build. Now, if you're following along on your own computer, go ahead and open up Ninox, and let's go ahead and start taking a look at these very special smart field table objects. For this lesson, we're going to be working with a blank or brand new database. So go ahead and create a new database in your Ninox. Select the new template because we're going to be working with a blank empty database to start with. Go ahead and create a new table, as I've done here, and open up the table management window. Now, we're going to focus in this class specifically on smart fields, 3 fields that have some very special and powerful capabilities. So, let's go ahead and grab 2 email fields, 2 phone number fields, and 1 URL field. The first email we will name primary email, and email number 2 will be alternate email. And go ahead and use the same names for the 2 telephones. Primary phone and phone number 2 will be alternate phone. We have the 1 URL field, so let's just go ahead and leave that labeled as it is, URL. Now what these fields do is they capture information, and based on the content and based on Ninox knowing what this content is for, they integrate the applications in which they're used with other applications on your computer. Let's take a look in action. Go ahead and save your changes, and let's bring up a blank record. Now, before we do anything, let's go into administrative mode and clean up our screen a little bit. Let's shrink the email fields down to about that size. Make the 2 phone fields as narrow as you can, and then on the second line, have the URL field extend the entire width from the left side of primary email all the way to the right side of alternate phone. Those URLs, those website addresses can get pretty long. So when you're using the URL field, it's a good idea to give yourself some space. Go ahead and save those changes and turn off administrative mode. Now, let's see a smart field in action, starting with primary email. Go ahead and type your email address into the primary email field, and that would be name@address.com. But use your email address. Go ahead and type it into the primary email field, and using the tab key or by clicking anywhere outside the field, accept that content into the primary email field, and look what happened. If we compare our primary email to our alternate email is empty and looks like every other empty field we've ever worked with. But take a look at primary email. It now has this icon suffix, this email envelope, which appears right here on the far right side of the field itself. Let's also see how those smart phone number fields operate. Go ahead and put your phone number in the primary phone field, and again, using your tab key or the click of the mouse, go ahead and accept that data, and compare now the primary phone to the alternate phone field. We again see a new suffix, an icon emblem, this time the telephone, an old-fashioned phone, but a phone nonetheless. we see the icon. These icons exist and enable us to connect the Ninox applications we build with the other systems, the other pieces of software on our computer or our tablet or smartphone that enable us to act on this data. For example, if we have a valid email address in a Ninox email field and we click on the envelope, Ninox will automatically fire up your email system and prepare an email with, in your case, your email address. Any content that is put into an email address field will automatically address and set up an outgoing email across whatever your default email application is. Similarly, if you have a device that is capable of making voice calls, phone calls, whether it's a tablet, your computer, or of course your smartphone, clicking on the telephone icon to the right of any phone field will enable Ninox to dial that number, to place a call to the number that is the content of the phone field itself. Now, the computer I'm working on here doesn't have an outgoing telephone capability, so I'm not going to click on the icon, but if you're working on a tablet that can make calls, or a smartphone, or just want to see how it works on your computer, go ahead and click on that handset and see how a smart phone field in Ninox integrates with the actual phone function on your technology. The smart email and the smart phone fields are not only necessary to enable us to track contact information, how we get in touch with customers, with vendors, with coworkers, or maybe family members, but they also connect, integrate our Ninox applications with the other desktop tools like the email system or the telephone system that is part of our technology. Let's now move on to the URL field. This enables us to connect Ninox and the applications that we build with it to the World Wide Web. For example, go ahead and type in the URL, the World Wide Web address of one of your favorite websites. I'll just go with something generic like websitename.com. Again, accept the data by either clicking outside the field or using your tab key. And as I'm sure you now expect, here we have a new smart icon, the World Wide Web globe, to the far right of this URL smart field. And I'm pretty sure you know what's going to happen when we click on that globe. Go ahead and click on the globe icon. It will automatically fire up whatever your web browser of choice is and take you to that site. The content in the field is not only there for us to see and track and manage, but it is there for Ninox to act on. Whether it's sending an email, dialing a phone, or going to this web address using the browser to access the World Wide Web. Let's look at a couple of more smart fields or interactive fields that allow us to add a more graphic dimension to the applications we build. Let's go back into our table management form and let's grab a color field and an icon field. There's no need at this point to rename them. Leave them as is, accept your changes, and let's return to the form. Now, I am going to very quickly just throw a space element up here on the second row because I want those two new fields that I just created to be side by side here on the third row. And I'm going to skinny them up just a little bit because the truth is they can do their job and take up very little space at the same time. These two fields, like the date and time fields that we worked with a few classes ago, are prompted fields. They have prompters or pickers that allow us to simplify and standardize data entry or content entry into the field. Think of the color field as a flag field. And we can use either the preset, select from the preset 12 colors in the Ninox palette. We can go to the palette and choose from any one of 64 different colors. Or we can go to the RGB, the red, green, blue mixer, and create any custom color we want to match any corporate logo, website design, even a picture that might appear on the website page itself. When you're satisfied with the color, if you're using the RGB picker, go ahead and click on the color you've created, and there we go. If I want to change the color, I simply click on the color that's there. This time I'll use the palette, and I'll go with a nice deep purple. These flags, as you'll see in a moment, are very powerful ways to give a visual aspect to our user interface. Now you're going to see in a moment what I mean exactly by a visual aspect. And when I show it to you, it's going to make perfect sense. But these color fields, while very simple, allow us to quickly identify groups or subsets of data within a specific table. Now, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, so of course we might want to use icons or pictures as another method for grouping our data. For example, let's say we're tracking a database of companies that we do business with. We may want to use the shopping cart for retail companies. We might want to use the factory icon for manufacturing companies. We might want to use the film reel for companies that work in audiovisual or entertainment. And of course, if we're doing business with banks, we can use that bag of money. These pictures, these icons, again, allow us to add a graphic component to our user interface, which, as you will see in a moment, give the user interface an entirely new capability. They create a sense of intuitiveness, and they make it very easy for us to quickly understand large amounts of data. So again, when we're talking about the smart fields in Ninox, we're talking about a handful of fields: the email field, and the phone field, and the URL field, that not only allow us to capture critically important pieces of content, but allow Ninox to act on that content and integrate itself and the applications you build with other applications on your piece of technology: smartphone, tablet, laptop, or desktop. And then the other two smart fields are really more of an identification type of field. We have the color flag and the three different options for selecting a color, and we have the icon field. And all of the standard Ninox icons are available. Again, if I were working with a locksmith, this would probably be an appropriate icon for me to use. And if I wanted to quickly identify the electric company, we could just go ahead and use the light bulb. You get the idea. Now, when creating the smart fields, let's take a look at some additional features behind the scenes that add even more power and more punch to the Ninox applications we build. Go back into administrative mode, select the primary email, click on the wrench, and make sure you're displaying more options so you can see the entire email setup window that appears on your screen in this video. Of course, we have the name, our new label position with the new release of Ninox, which is a very powerful feature, and one that we're going to talk about in the next series of videos when we talk about user interface. We can designate whether the email or the phone or the URL is a required or an optional field. Let's leave it optional for now, and we've worked with default values. We don't need that at this moment, but let's look at two new fields that we haven't seen before. Two new parameters that add a whole lot of sizzle to a very simple email address. Let's go into the subject field and say hello to, and type your name from Ninox. And go into the body field and type, this is the body of a new email created by my Ninox application. And if you want to get fancy, you can even correct the spelling. Let's fill out the subject and the body parameters attached to the primary email field. Click OK, save your changes, and exit administrative mode. Everything looks the same. Like I said, this power exists behind the scenes. Go ahead and click on the envelope icon and watch what happens this time. Of course, the email was already addressed for us, but look at that. Our subject has been filled out, and the first pieces of text or content in the body of the email have been created automatically, making an even more streamlined synchronization between the database, the Ninox application that stores email addresses, and the email system that we use to act on those addresses. Again, back into administrative mode. Let's grab our wrench. And again, looking at the parameters of the primary email account, subject and body. These are two parameters that you will only see with email objects or email fields in Ninox tables. But boy, they're really powerful. They speed up data entry. They speed up sending emails. And when you take a look at some videos in our 400 series where we talk about programming and coding in Ninox, we're going to take these fields a few steps further and do mass mailings and automate the process of integrating our Ninox application with our email application to do some pretty fancy and complex stuff automatically using Ninox code. That's in the 400 series. But for this class here today, get comfortable with the use of the email field and the ability to streamline by creating default subjects and creating default body. And this could be an automatic signature. It could be an automatic salutation. Anything you can use to speed up the data entry process in Ninox is fair game for the subject and body parameter. Now, what you just saw me do when I clicked on this gear, as we know, the gear reveals even more tools in the Ninox toolbox. In this case, clicking on the gear takes us to our code editor. We're not going to build code in this class, but a few classes from now, we're going to use this code editor to create fabulous automations, formulas, and automated processes that take these already powerful smart email fields and supercharge their capability. Now, go ahead and select the primary phone field, and again, look at the options. This is pretty standard. Nothing new here, but keep in mind, using this phone field and using it as a smart field, Ninox can now dial the phone for you. Similarly, the URL field, go ahead and look at the parameters for that one. Again, nothing new. We have the ability to work with triggers to define when the field is displayed or writable. These are code-based operations, and we'll get to coding a couple of classes from now. We can include hover help using the tooltip. This great new feature in the newest release of Ninox where we can control where the label appears. Now, in a next class, when we talk about building our user interface, we're going to take a deep dive into label positioning. And then finally, a parameter that we've used many times before, the required parameter. Yes or no, is it acceptable to leave this field blank or empty? Go ahead and click OK, exit administrative mode, and go ahead and return to your desktop. Now, if you like, hit pause and take a few moments to experiment with the way we can use and apply these very powerful smart fields: the email field, the phone field, and the URL field. Take a couple of minutes, play around on your own, and get used to using these fields. They're pretty basic and simple, at least they appear that way, but behind the scenes, there's enormous power and integration capability built right into the field. You've heard me say it many times. If you know what you want, Ninox knows how to get it done. And this is the most perfect example of that. If you know what the email address is, or the phone number, or the URL of the website, if you know what it is, Ninox automatically knows what to do with it. Now, before we conclude this class on smart fields, let me show you a couple of applications where we've used the smart fields and the flag fields that we've studied in this class and put them to use in a real-world situation. Let's pop over and look at a customer invoice entry system that we've built. Notice that we have an order flag right here. This is a color field that we dropped in. Now, we use this flag to quickly identify orders that we may need to deal with, orders that may have a problem or aren't running according to schedule. Let's go into the flag view, which is actually a Kanban that we created, and take a look at all of our orders sorted by order status. We see pending, approved, and accepted orders. We see orders that are on hold and back ordered. Now, even though we see 3 different status here, pending, approved, and accepted, they all use the same color flag, this bright green circle right at the bottom of each record, at each card. However, the on hold and back order orders are using the red color, the red flag, to grab our attention, to notify us that for whatever reason, these 5 orders, the orders that are on hold or back ordered, are going to be late and may require us to do some extra processing or some extra work because they're not running according to schedule. The simple act of inserting a color flag or a color field onto the invoice entry screen or a purchase order screen or the screen or form of any application you're building in Ninox allows you to use color to identify critical components or important subsets of data. Here we see a number of orders appearing on our screen. Lots of different lanes in the Kanban and lots of cards within each lane. But these 5 orders here, the ones that are highlighted with the red flag, those capture our attention because those may need a little extra attention. Now, as long as we're here, let's go up and pull up one of these orders, and let's take a look at the vendor, in this case, Pink Jasmine Loungewear. And here we see smart fields in action, a primary and an alternate email, the phone number and an alternate phone number we can use to contact this particular vendor, and finally the website where this vendor is doing business online. You know what a smart field does. Clicking any of these icons, the email, the phone, or the World Wide Web icon, will fire Ninox into action, integrate with the email, with the phone capabilities, and with the web browsing capabilities of whatever device we're using, and make Ninox that much more powerful by making it that much more connected. When we talk about smart fields, they're smart because they know what to do with the content they hold. Email, phone, URL, colors, and icon fields. These 5 fields are smart and powerful, simple to use, but they add an incredible level of capability to the applications in which we use them. So go ahead and start building applications, experiment with these smart fields, use the icon and the color flags, and see how powerful they are. See how easy they make it to interact with large amounts of data quickly and accurately. Use the color flags and the icons to make what's relevant at that moment easily visible to you. That's it for this class. And that's it for the 200 level series in the Ninox Learning Series. As we go into the 300 level, we're going to take an even deeper dive into tables, looking at table relationships and all of the different things we can do with table properties and the different ways we can share data between different tables. That's it for now. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed this class. Go ahead and check out the next level, the 300 training level in Ninox Learning, and continue to grow your skills and capabilities with the Ninox Database Application Development System.